Welcome to this month's NSF webinar, Putting Fans First, how the Atlanta Falcons and Atlanta United FC are making the fan experience their #1 play. NFL teams have some of the most dedicated fans in the world, and soccer is arguably the most popular game on the planet. But in this day and age of increasingly fragmented audiences, divided loyalty, and intense competition for the hearts and minds of sports fans, franchises have to do more than just field a winning team. And in this webinar, we're going to talk to an organization that is doing exactly that. AMB Sports and Entertainment has made an unflinching commitment to creating the best possible fan experience. By listening to and responding to fan feedback, the Atlanta Falcons and the Atlanta United FC are following through on a commitment by owner Arthur Blank to do whatever it takes to create raving fans and deliver the ultimate experience in the brand new Mercedes-Benz Stadium slated to open in 2017. This extraordinary mandate is the driving force behind several fan-first initiatives, including 2 vibrant online insight communities powered by Vision Critical's customer intelligence platform and a revolutionary approach to food and beverage pricing. My name is Ben Hudson. I am the editorial director for Vision Critical. For those of you that may not be familiar with us, we are the world's leading customer intelligence platform chosen by enterprise-sized companies that are committed to making truly customer-centric strategic decisions at all levels of the business. The Atlanta Falcons and the Atlanta United FC are 2 teams that embody that commitment through and through, and it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Kevin SCHOHL. Kevin SCHOHL is Director of Business Analytics for the Atlanta Falcons, Atlanta United FC, and Mercedes-Benz Stadium. He's joined us today to talk about how the Atlanta Falcons and the United FC are making fan experience their #1 play. Kevin, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Before we kick off, why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are and your role at AMB Sports, and let's get into it.
Sure, I joined the organization about 2.5 years ago. You can see there on the right side, my role covers a pretty wide range. I'm a jack of a few different trades here. We'll focus today, I think, on the fan insights and fan experience pieces. So when we get into the Q&A, if anybody has questions about some of these other aspects, happy to talk to those as well.
Fantastic. So let's dive right in here, and why don't we set this up for our fans and talk a little bit about, sorry for the listeners out there, and talk a little bit about the landscape and what's going on in Atlanta right now.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's certainly an exciting time. We've got the Falcons first place in the division, certainly in the playoff hunt, and Atlanta United is in the middle of a very busy week of wheeling and dealing. We actually have the expansion draft starting just now, so as we speak, adding some more players to that team. So we've got a lot of passionate, dedicated fans of both of those teams, and beyond that, we really want to make sure that we're committed to creating raving fans of our stadium experience. So today that's at the Georgia Dome, but as we look to the future and we open a new stadium next year, we want to make sure that people are not just raving about the players and the coaches, but also their experience being at our stadium and attending the games. You know, for me, it's been really amazing to be a part of this organization the last couple of years, because this mindset really comes from our owner, Arthur Blank. He truly believes in the power of listening to the customers, giving them what they need, and that mindset really permeates our whole organization.
Yeah, I mean, he's given you guys an extraordinary mandate, and he's given you, you know, quite a lot of room to live up to that mandate. But of course, you know, a mandate is just a nice way to say a challenge for you guys. So why don't you sort of frame up some of the challenges that you guys are facing, and we can get into how you guys are going to start solving that.
Sure. I mean, the biggest challenge that we're all facing here is that we have a new stadium that opens in 2017, and you know, for a while, 2017 has always seemed very distant into the future, but obviously it's only a few weeks away at this point. So when we look to open this stadium next summer, we're going to have a lot of expectations from our fans and from the city to deliver on all the great promises and you know, exciting aspects of the new building that we've been talking about. So, you know, the current dome, the Georgia Dome, is run by the state. And you know, there's some pros and cons to that, but at the end of the day, you know, we don't have full control over different aspects of the game day experience. We certainly want to make sure people have as great of a time as they can when we're playing our games, but it's not fully in our control. big change next year will be that it's all on us. Every hot dog vendor, every ticket taker, usher, they'll be really kind of within our sphere of influence, and we want to make sure that we are providing an amazing experience to the fans and living up to those expectations.
Yeah, clearly the organization and the owner have enormous expectations for you guys and what you guys are going to deliver this year. But with a new stadium, presumably comes new ticket prices, and I can't imagine that the stadium is going to be less expensive this year. And so as those ticket prices up, you're going to experience elevated expectations from the fans, and that's a big challenge for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to make sure that we're delivering on those expectations that the fans have, and whether it's a Falcons game or a monster truck event or a soccer game or any event that's in the building, regardless of whether somebody paid $5 to get in or $50 to get in, we want to make sure that they had an amazing time in the building.
I'm a pretty sympathetic sports fan. I see a couple games a year, and I'm always so happy to be in the stadium that I kind of overlook the quality of the beer and maybe the quality of the hot dogs because I'm just so into it at that moment. But you guys are really trying to engage with and enhance the experience for fans that come to more than one game or that really go enough to see the difference between the two. So it's really an ongoing challenge for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, when we've been planning for the new experience, we've looked at some data that we collect through the NFL's Voice of the Fan program. And so after every game, there's a survey that goes out. People tell us about their experience at the game. That's pretty valuable data. But the interesting thing, of course, is that somebody like you is there at one game, you're sort of awed by the experience and actually tend to have inflated scores because you're not noticing the little things that might frustrate you. You're just so excited to be there. When we look at the scores from our season ticket members, we certainly see a little bit of a difference. And the real value in understanding that season ticket holder perspective is that they can take a look at their experience and notice the little changes. When we look at the Voice of the Fan data, we see a little bit of that, but honestly, we weren't feeling like we were uncovering the deeper insights that we kind of needed to take everything to the next level. We weren't getting enough responses, and even among the season ticket base, we weren't getting sort of a consistent set of feedback. We weren't able to ask the specific questions that we wanted to because they're all part of the NFL program. And one example here is that, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but one of the biggest pain points for many people at a sports stadium is the concessions, right? So you've got long lines, maybe some quality issues. People usually feel like the prices are unfairly high. So it didn't take a survey for us to know that, but we certainly saw that data in the survey. And the biggest question on our minds was, how do we turn that around? How do we fix that when we've got the new stadium opening?
Yeah, right. So I mean, I think that in a nutshell really is the challenge. And once you guys sort of get that challenge framed up, then it's a mind shift to say, okay, this is really, now we understand what the challenge is. The opportunity is to overcome that challenge. And you guys have taken on some enormous challenges here, and obviously the opportunities that follow.
Right. I mean, you can see on the screen here some of the exciting aspects of the new stadium, just sort of in its physical state, with the open-air roof, largest video board in the world, all sorts of exciting new aspects to the building, including state-of-the-art technology and a view into the city instead of sort of feeling like you're in a dark dungeon sometimes at the Dome. We really want to make sure, though, that all elements of the guest experience are as great as they can be. Our owner repeatedly stresses that the quality of the guest service needs to be, excellent, right, in order to match the grandeur of the building itself. If we open a brand new state-of-the-art building, but we're offering the same old experience and not stepping up our game on the guest service side, we've certainly failed, right? So you kind of referenced it, but there's the old adage that beer is always colder when the team wins and people like the food better and their ratings are always higher. We do see a little bit of that in the data, but the great thing about our new fan council program is that we're able to kind of cut through that. We've got a consistent set of really passionate, excited fans that are telling us what they want and what the most important things for them are, as we seek to make sure that we have a world-class venue that opens.
Yeah, I mean, it's you and I talked about this offline, but it's really the product that you guys are selling. It's not so much the experience, but it's really at the end of the day, it's winning. And to me, sort of maybe what you guys are trying to do is that you're trying to separate the emotion of the game from the enjoyment of the venue. Is that sort of oversimplifying the challenge, or is that really what it is you guys are trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think I will say that whereas the fans, when we ask them questions, certainly try to separate the emotion of a win or a loss from the key elements of their experience, that's not what we're trying to do as an organization. I mean, on our side, we know people are there to see the game, see the concert. That's the reason that they're there, right? We don't want to distract from that in any way. But what we're really trying to do is to figure out ways to augment that experience, get you in there as quickly as possible, as effortlessly as possible, make sure that you're eating good food, making sure that you're enjoying the time that you're spending with friends and family and watching the experience. So if it happens to be a loss that day, we want to still make sure that you're coming away with a positive experience. But our number one goal still with both of our teams is to make sure that we're delivering a win for you every time that you come in if we can.
Yeah, certainly. So you're trying to get some sort of realistic measure of what those drivers of satisfaction or dissatisfaction are, and it's not just what the problem is, but why do people feel that way, and perhaps more importantly, what can you do about it? So, with that in mind, the natural evolution here is to shift from an opportunity into a strategy to make that opportunity realistic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this slide shows a really oversimplified view of the strategy, but as it relates to improving the fan experience, it really starts from the top. It starts with that mindset, the true commitment from ownership and the executive team that our true north should be improving the fan experience, right? Rather than counting pennies or worry about the exact penciled out ROI for everything, if we keep in mind that the fan experience is the most important aspect of everything, the belief here, and it really permeates culture, is that the dollars and cents kind of work themselves out later. And I think there's a lot of teams and organizations that are realizing that and sort of going down that path. But I do know that many don't necessarily think that way, right? So I personally am thrilled to be a part of an organization that really truly has that commitment to being fan-centric. And part of that involves bringing people on board that don't have revenue responsibilities and are just here to make sure that the fan experience improves. So we hired a couple former Disney executives and many other great guest service executives to kind of craft that for us. And then beyond that, we are making sure that the tools that are in place that those folks have at their disposal are truly making the fan experience better. So we're in the process of redoing our mobile apps, launching brand new mobile apps with increased functionality for the fans next year. That allows us to better understand the fans and provide them a better experience. And then, of course, what we're talking about today, too, the investment in the 2 different fan councils that we have. We've had the Falcons Fan Council for about a little bit over a year now, and we're going to be launching our Atlanta United Fan Council in a few weeks, and I know that we got plenty of Atlanta United supporters that are excited to get in on that.
One of the tools that you guys have traditionally used, or a lot of businesses do, you touched on the fan council just now, and we'll definitely dig into that. But let's talk a little bit about some of the tools that you guys would have used in the past prior to bringing in the fan council. And of course, one of those things is an ad hoc survey, or what we sort of tongue-in-cheek call a spam survey. Obviously, there's valuable data that you get out of those. But what were some of the things that you were struggling with those kind of surveys?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a little bit of a struggle, as I mentioned, with the sort of league-mandated type of survey. Certainly has great advantages for us to compare against other teams, but has some drawbacks there. We also do use simple survey tools. We've used them in the past. They're certainly cheaper. I will say that. There's no question about that. But we've really seen things taken to a different level with the fan council approach. And I think the main thing is that the fans see the investment that's being made in truly understanding what they think. When we have a branded portal that they get invited to and log into that has functionality that goes beyond just surveys, they notice that. That's a big difference. It feels more personal. It feels like you're really able to influence what our decisions are, because we're looking at those surveys and we are changing our decisions based on what the fans say. So to me, the biggest advantage is definitely that look and feel, the idea that someone feels more a part of it, and we see amazing response rates from people in the fan council. So I think that's the biggest difference we see versus a typical survey tool. But beyond that, the fact that it's all kind of closed loop, we've got all the former surveys that we've asked of people, and we can draw on their prior responses to inform new surveys. Even just a simple thing, right? I've taken a lot of surveys. If you fill out your gender and age and income multiple times, every time they ask you, you don't feel like they don't really know you. You're just one extra person that received that survey that day, right? But if we're able
that's right. You're telling them how special they are and how important they are to you, except that you've got to ask them who they are every single time.
Right, exactly. So that plays through in response rates. It plays through in other satisfaction metrics that we look at, that the people that have been in the fan council, all else equal, really have a stronger passion for a brand after being in it than someone who, prior to being in the fan council, had been in the same shoes as that person. So we're excited about that, and it also is a pretty easy thing to use to be able to communicate with fans through one portal rather than going through the different hoops that you might find in an organization, trying to get an email out that sends a survey and the data comes back and somebody else analyzes it. Right? To have it all in one place has been pretty good for us too.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I mean, something we talk about at Vision Critical a lot is that every, in your case, every fan engagement should be a branded engagement, and every piece of that interaction should reflect the quality of the customer experience or fan experience that you guys are trying to create within the stadium. So it stands to reason that the tool you use to engage with and learn from your customers lives up to the standard or the mandate that the guys like Arthur Blank have set for you. So, we're excited you guys are using that way, and obviously you guys are having some success. And it's not just about, this particular webinar is about the food and beverage program, but you guys have got a whole bunch of things that you're working on, and obviously you have access to a variety of tools that you're using. But for the sake of time and for the sake of this webinar, let's dive in and talk about the food and beverage program that you guys are working on, because it is revolutionary, and it is a totally new idea, and it is something that I think is going to change the way that sports organizations approach food and approach the way that they get insight and feedback from their customers. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to think that charging fair prices for things is not a new idea, but certainly in the sports we've gotten a lot of credit for sort of returning to some safety on the pricing side. But it goes beyond pricing. Honestly, the whole Fan First food and beverage program is designed to address a lot of different pain points that people had. Right. So we knew that people thought the prices were too high. We knew that there were some drawbacks to the way our food and beverage stands were set up in the Georgia Dome. Obviously, with a new stadium, we want to improve on all these things. So there is an aspect of pricing that's important here. It's also about adding sort of next generation capabilities, making sure that people have the variety and the quality that they want. But it's also really just the sort of really simple, nitty-gritty operational details that get to speed of service and other aspects. All of our items are going to be whole dollar, right? There's no quarters, no $2.50, $2.75. Hey, we have to raise this by 25 cents next year. We want to make sure everything's kind of at a whole dollar. Doing a lot of industrial engineering studies to better understand how we can move people through the lines as fast as possible, use some technology there. The irony is that we're actually making things worse for ourselves on that front, on the pricing side, right? Because we can have as many new points of sale as we'd like, and we will certainly have more. We'll have about 65% more points of sale in the new stadium. But by drastically slashing the prices on these items, we're going to have a lot more demand, and that's going to cause people to be going to those stands rather than stopping at McDonald's on their way to the game or something like that. So it's certainly a crazy ecosystem. I know there's a lot of people curious to see how it all plays out, but I think on the aspect that people care most about with the, sorry, Ben, I'm trying to advance the slide. I don't know if I...
Oh, sorry, let me see what's going on here. Oh, yeah, you got it.
Yeah. So I think that one of the aspects that people really care the most about is not just having a low price, but the value. So this is a quote from, one of those former Disney guys that I was talking about earlier, our Senior Vice President, Mike Gomes, talking about how the value really starts with pricing, but includes a lot of that quality, freshness, variety, all these different aspects of it. And I think that fans will really see that and notice that when we move into the new building. So sure, we're going to have the $2 hot dogs. We'll have $2 Cokes with unlimited refills, $5 beers. You get a bottle of water for $2 instead of $6, right? These are some things that really come from Arthur Blank's philosophy that we need to be offering these items at a fair price, same as they would be at a local establishment nearby. And beyond that, we want to make sure that we have elevated offerings. So it's not just about what the basic hot dog is, but pulling in local restaurant partners. And this is where the fans really came in, because Arthur Blank asked us to get whatever restaurants the fans wanted in the building. So we had a really long survey within the fan council to go through a bunch of different food types, find out which local restaurants people were most excited about and thought were the best, and sort of went in order of what those rankings were in terms of reaching out to local partners. So it wasn't about how much sponsorship money somebody put up or anything like that. It was really about what aspects of the local culinary scene people wanted to have included. And it was pretty fun. We also did it on the beer side. So, which craft beers, which beers that we wanted to have involved. So matching that quality with price to give people the good value was important. And it all really kind of came from research we were doing in the fan council. And some of the most fun that we've had actually was bringing people from the fan council into some tasting environments. So we were really bridging the gap with.
Before you dive into that, I just want to bring something up here, because we're going to get into this, which is the fun part. But there's one thing that I think we need to just add some context to people, is that so I'm just going to go back a slide just for the sake of it, because you talk about the organization's willingness to go out there and do the whole number pricing and actually ask the fans not just like what kind of food they want to eat, but who do they actually want to eat it from. And that's a fundamental shift in the way that stadiums think about bringing suppliers or vendors into the restaurant, into the stadium. And I think it might be worth just sort of highlighting how stadiums traditionally do it versus how the way you guys have done it, because I think that's an important point to make.
Sure. I mean, we're certainly not the first to bring in some great local partners to have in our building. So we certainly don't want anybody getting the impression that we're out of the ordinary there. But you go to a baseball ballpark, and you go to a lot of newer stadiums, and you see really that fabric of the local community woven into the food offerings that you have there. And we have that in only a limited way at the Georgia Dome. But as we go into the new stadium, we'll have 15 to 20 really truly local partners that make up the restaurant scene there. You'll really feel like you're in Atlanta. So if somebody came from out of town, they would really feel like they're in Atlanta. And we're excited about that. And even better is not just working with a partner who wants to showcase his brand or make some extra money or give an upcharge because it's in the stadium, but we're requiring all of our partners to offer their high-quality items at the same price they would at their restaurant down the street.
Right.
So we will have $2 hot dogs and $5 burgers, but we'll also have sort of gourmet burgers from Farm Burger at $8 or $9 with different sauce and bacon and other things. So it'll be pretty exciting. People will enjoy it, and the challenge will still be to get that into their hands and get them back into their seats so they don't miss any of the game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The most important part, of course. So yeah, sorry I interrupted you, but you're about to go into one of the most fun parts that you did. So let me take you back to that. Shifting from the thinking and the pricing and bringing the vendors in, but it wasn't just a matter of like, okay, that's what you said. Let's let's bring them in here. You actually brought the fans and the people that were members in your fan council. You actually got them involved right as the decisions were being made.
Oh yeah. So it's one thing to hear a $2 hot dog. A lot of people are skeptical. How bad is that $5 burger going to taste, right? So we brought people in to try out, and this really isn't changing the quality. We're improving the quality from Georgia Dome and lowering the price all at the same time. So to bring people in, give them a chance to interact with the food, see it, taste it, tell us what they think, right? There was a item that seemed a little bit too salty to people, so we changed the recipe up, tried it with the next group, and it was a big hit. So all these different aspects that I think get rushed through, and if a concessionaire might be thinking about it, it's sort of out of sight, out of mind, not being thought about by a typical team or organization. And we wanted to not just leave that up to chance, not just leave that up to what the concessionaire wanted to do, and truly partner with our concessionaire, which is Levy Restaurants, to bring in people, invest in sort of a tasting environment for people to come in, try out some food, tell us what they think. And just last week we actually had a showcase event for the restaurant partners. And so as part of that, we had a lot of media there talking about the different local restaurants that our fans help select. And we actually brought 20 of our lucky fan council fans from our Falcons and United side into that event to kind of represent the 4,000 fans who took the surveys and told us what they wanted to see. So that was a little bit of a smaller event, but then we're also having these tastings of kind of 100 people each to make sure that we're getting the regular food right. So it's been really fun. People have been very excited, and it's been a really cool way to take sort of a online survey-taking experience about the food and bridging it into real life and bringing people into an environment where they're interacting with us and making even more an impact.
So how did you make those choices? I mean, you've obviously, you touched on it before, as members came into the fan council, you're sort of profiling them on an ongoing basis so you know who you're talking to, and that conversation and dialogue is evolving over time. How did you select the people for these tasting events?
Sure. I mean, it all starts with making sure that they took that first survey. Somebody who really was invested, told us what their food and beverage preferences were, was obviously a good starting point. And then we had the ability to get a good representative cross-section of our building. So people that sit in the club sections, people that sit in the 300 level, people that have been season ticket holders for 1 year or season ticket holders for 50 years. We wanted to make sure that across all that and other demographics that we were understanding what people's viewpoints were. So, some people brought their kids. We got to get a good sense of what a kid would think. Just an example there, we had this really nice margarita pizza, $3 a slice for a margarita pizza. Really exciting, good quality. But, kids were scared off by the little tomato on the middle of it, right? It wasn't a regular plain cheese. It's one of those things that, somebody could probably think about, but to have true focus group experience, that's not something you can really ask in an online survey. You got to have that kid there looking at that piece of tomato on the pizza.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things I love about that. Is one is it demonstrates how important it is to have that ongoing engagement and to really know who your fans are at a different cross section. But then the other part that I love is that it's really, you're not just hitting them with surveys and taking their information and going and running with it. You're actually really demonstrating the value of their participation to the organization and taking it to that one step further where they're like, yeah, what you say is important to us, but we actually want you to come on in and show and make sure that what you told us in these activities and in the council is actually what you thought was going to happen, and give us a chance to make sure that this is dead right. Right,
and the only downside is we wish we could have everybody that was in the fan council come to every single one of these events, but we do try to mix it up, and hopefully people will have different exciting opportunities like this along the way, especially the more engaged and involved somebody is in the community and filling out surveys, the more likely we're able to do things like this.
Yeah, for sure. Reward engagement with more engagement, and on it goes like that. I mean, it's a great story, and everybody's excited to see how it's going to come to life. Maybe give us a little bit of insight into how you are measuring success, and give us a sneak preview into what's next for you guys.
Sure. Well, when we win the Super Bowl and win the next MLS Cup, we'll certainly be checking the box on the success we're striving for on the field. But I think as we move into 2017, as we go to open this stadium, it really requires that constant monitoring of our fan satisfaction ratings. We're excited to see how they improve next year. We want to show off everything that our fans and the fan councils have helped us put together. We want to see that engagement and higher ratings, not just among these people, of course, but of everybody that comes into the building. So just because we have these fan councils doesn't mean that we're not listening to the other people that come in for other events or for that one game, right? If you came to one game, we still want that we're tracking what you have to say and responding to any concerns or feedback that you have. That's still all a big part of this, and requires a lot of people listening, a lot of people taking action to respond to what they are hearing. But certainly as we build up our capabilities here, we want to be then matching that back. What aspects of satisfaction drive different revenue aspects, which things that we do from a fan experience side are working or not working, what can we change? We've asked people in the Fan Council recently about their awareness of our environmental sustainability efforts related to the building, about the art program that's going into the building. We've asked people about different aspects that show up on the video boards, certain chants or rituals that we do. And so we're always constantly surveying our fan bases to understand what we can do better. And got to say, I mean, Arthur and Rich McKay and Darren Eales and all of our top executives eat this stuff up. They want to make sure that we're always asking the fans and understanding what they have to say so that we can get better and better.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great story, and I mean, who doesn't want a mega boss like Arthur Blank telling you just go out there and do your very best work with the very, very best tools that you can use. And for Vision Critical, we're super flattered that one of the very best tools you decided to use was an insight community, so we're super happy to hear about that. I could ask you questions all day, but I'm sure there's some listeners out there that have some questions for you. We're going to turn it over to Albie. Albie, have you got any questions out there for Kevin?
Hey everyone, yeah, Albie Albalos here from the National Sports Forum. A question did come in from the audience for you, Kevin. So, have you done the analysis of how wins and losses tie to other satisfaction scores? From past exercises in this space, the result was on average a half point on a 5-point scale across.
Yeah, so it's interesting. When we look at the NFL Voice of the Fan ratings, those are on a 10-point scale. Those get a little bit clouded by a lot of the single-game buyers we have there, right? So single-game attendees tend to not fluctuate quite as much their emotion from a win or a loss perspective. Season ticket members on that 10-point scale, I'd have to look. I don't know that, but I do know in the Fan Council we're on a 5-point scale. We tend to see more like a 0.25 or 0.3 difference on certain questions related when we win or lose. So we've only got, a year and a half of history on this, so we'll be able to build that up better over time. But the interesting thing is that certain questions don't see any fluctuation. When we ask your satisfaction with safety and security, for example, there's hardly any change. You feel, ideally, everybody feels fully safe every game. But there are certain things that it creeps into, and so we monitor that. We do ask the question specifically, hey, taking aside the performance of the players and the coaches, what is your rating? And people, because they're seeing that question all the time and they're sort of committed and they're going to every game, they are separating their emotion there for the most part. But of course, we do ask right after that, what is your satisfaction of the performance of the players and coaches so that they're able to get their answer out there on that front as well. So we don't want to use the Fan Council to tie much to the on-field performance. We do need to keep those things a little bit separate, but it does help to see what somebody's rating of the on-field performance was versus their in-stadium satisfaction. And, most of the time over the long run, there is still kind of a 0.25 or so difference on that 5-point scale between these people who are answering the questions that way and attending every game and responding to all these surveys.
Yeah, and I think a part to that, Kevin, is that and you touched on it a lot, it's the ability to sort of dive into why they're giving you those answers that they've given you and ask those follow-up questions. Oh, that's interesting that you said that. Can you tell me a little bit more about this? Or you guys as a group can zero in on these on a particular problem area or an opportunity and say, hey, we know what happened on the field, or we don't know what happened on the field, but now we can ask the next question forward from there.
Right, and one of the cool ways that we've been able to dive deep on some things is using the discussion board features that the vision critical community has. So if we had a specific thing that we were confused about or wanted to delve into, we have the ability to sort of have a closed environment, invite some people into sort of an online focus group where they can be interacting not just with us but with other fans. And we've used that this year specifically on an initiative we have with mobile ticketing. So we're trying to better understand people's acceptance of using their mobile phone for ticketing, not having physical tickets, different aspects of that experience. And so we were able to recruit a test group through the fan council, get them involved, and then also provide them these discussion boards for them to interact and help with each other, but also for us to see their feedback and to sort of look qualitatively in word cloud and all that stuff that we can do with the tool.
Success of mobile ticketing. I think we've got our NSF webinar for 2017 there. Put it on the slate, Albie, for us.
There you go.
Yeah, there's definitely people ahead of us on that front, but we're doing it and to make it a good experience.
Fantastic, fantastic. Albie, are there any more questions out there for us?
Yeah, one slightly different question for you, Kevin. How has the environmental sustainability experience been with building the new stadium, and have you seen any major setbacks?
I mean, we we're on track to be the first LEED Platinum stadium in the world. Sacramento's going to end up beating us probably on being the first LEED Platinum sports venue, let's say, because of their great new arena. But we're excited to be very committed. A lot of extra money going into the development of the stadium for the solar panel aspects and the recycling and the reuse of stormwater and the way the whole building is structured. Our general manager of the stadium is the head of the Green Sports Alliance, so this is something that he's passionate about. Arthur's very passionate about as well. So the extra money that goes into all these aspects that help save energy and reuse and partnering with our different recycling partners, that all goes a long way. And so we're partnering with Georgia State there to sort of track impression, kind of people's perception of our efforts over the next 3 years, and also how that translates back to their own behavior. So is coming to the game and seeing a lot of sustainability things and recycling and anything else that we're sort of promoting, translating back into their real life? Are they recycling more? Are they more aware of the environment? So very interesting side project, I guess, that we can use the fan council for.
Great, great. Ben, is there anything else on your end? Because I don't have any more questions for Kevin from the audience.
No, that's great. Actually, I'm a really interesting point to end on when you talk about how do fans help us make decisions. I think it's super interesting when you talk about now. You turn that around and say, hey, okay, so how is what we've done at the stadium impacting the way they're behaving? I mean, now you're talking about real ongoing learning and developing between not just the members but the organizations as well. I think that's super interesting and something we'd love to dig in with you a little bit more down the road, Kevin, because I think that's a fascinating subject.
Sure. Sounds great.
Great. Well, thanks, Albie. Do you want to take us home?
Yeah, great. So thank you for everyone for tuning into this month's webinar. A special thank you to both Ben and Kevin. We really enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this webinar, we'd love to see you out in Minneapolis, St. Paul for the 2017 National Sports Forum this coming February 12th to the 14th. You can visit us on our website on the screen, www.sports-forum.com. Visit that site for more information. And with that, I want to wish everyone a happy holidays, happy New Year's, and we'll see you in 2017. Take care, everyone. Bye.